This video will demonstrate several ways that JAMS can pass information to a job using variables and parameters. Before getting started, let's first describe basic differences between these two elements. In a nutshell, a variable contains a single slice of data that can be globally defined across all JAMS jobs, while a parameter remains exclusive to a particular job definition. Variables are powerful tools that can make batch processing easier and more dynamic. Once a variable is defined, you can put it to use in several ways, such as importing its value into a parameter, creating a job dependency, a trigger event, or by directly inserting it into a job definition source code. In fact, we'll use this latter method for our demonstration. Before we can pass information to a job, let's first define a new variable in JAMS. To get started, highlight the variable shortcut located at the bottom of the JAMS client window. This action opens the variable definitions view. Click inside this view and select the Add button on the ribbon bar to access the JAMS variable definitions wizard. Choose the Next button and then enter a name for the new variable. For this example, we'll use the name Tech Support. On the next page, we're prompted to select a data type and value for a new variable. For this example, we'll choose the text data type and assign a value of Marcy Connor. Next, click the Finish button to complete the variable setup process. The new variable now appears in the Variable Definitions view. Of course, you can always go back and modify any variable by opening its properties. Now this newly created variable can be called by literally hundreds of jobs. In fact, variables can be set using a variety of methods. We'll be demonstrating how it works using the JAMS client, but variables can also be defined within the JAMS command line environment or from PowerShell. In fact, here's an example how to define the same variable using the JAMS PowerShell module. Let's move ahead with our example and work with a job that references the newly defined Tech Support variable. We'll now open an existing job definition and add the variable into its source properties. Now let's insert two parameters called start date and end date into the same job source code. Remember, unlike a variable, these two elements will be unique to this particular job. Notice that we're using the same double bracket designation that was used for our global variable above. That's because JAMS variables and parameters are referenced similarly, but defined using a different process. To define the two new parameters, we'll open the Jobs Parameters tab and choose the Add button to access the parameter wizard. On the first page, enter the name for the first parameter we're calling Start Date and click the Next button. For the default value, we'll enter today minus 5 work days. Notice that JAMS uses natural language to define date entries. There's no need for complex code to return a date going back 5 working days. Click Next and select the date data type and choose the appropriate output format. On the next page, insert any end-user prompts that can assist the user. With the start date parameter defined, let's create another definition for the end date parameter using a default value of today. Once the two parameters have been defined, we can then manually submit the job. Notice how JAMS prompts and populates the default values for the two parameters. After the job executes, we can go to its log to review how our variable and parameters performed. Alternatively, we can also verify what parameter values were passed by accessing the Jobs Parameters tab. Using these and other techniques can enhance the power of JAMS and, more importantly, provide additional flexibility when defining complex job processes.